3 families, same suburb in the greater Toronto area, same income, same starting point in 2026. 25 years later, one family owns a paid-off home worth $1.57 million. One family has nearly $2 million in liquid investments. And one family has paid $1.44 million in rent and has almost nothing. Here is the twist most people do not see coming. The family that never bought a home, if they played it right, comes out ahead of the family that did. Not by a little, by almost $400,000 after tax. But if they played it wrong, they are the ones with nothing. Same rent, same suburb, same income. A $2 million difference in outcome. Built entirely on one decision made every single month for 25 years. Every number in this video is sourced. We will tell you exactly where each figure comes from. So 3 families, we will call them the Jones, the Martinez, and the Smiths. All 3 live in the same suburb in the greater Toronto area. All 3 are looking at the same 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom house in 2026. Purchase price, $750,000. That is a realistic entry point for a suburban family home in the GTA right now based on current TRREB benchmark data. The Jones buy it. The Martinez and the Smiths rent a comparable 3-bedroom unit instead for $3,757 per month. The average 3-bedroom rent in the GTA suburbs. The Jones put down $75,000, 10%, and take on a $675,000 mortgage. Using the Canadian mortgage calculation standard, semi-annual compounding, at 4% over 25 years, their monthly mortgage payment is $3,551. But that is not the full cost of owning this home. Not even close. Property tax on a $750,000 home in the Toronto area is $5,755 in year 1. That is based on Toronto's 2026 residential mill rate of 0.7673%, another $480 a month. Then there is maintenance. The Financial Consumer Agency of Canada recommends budgeting 1 to 3% of your home's value every year for upkeep. We are using 1.5%, the conservative middle. On a $750,000 home, that is $11,250 in year 1. Another $938 a month, year 1, total cost of ownership. For the Jones, $59,613, or almost $5,000 a month. And here's what most buy versus rent comparisons conveniently ignore. These costs do not stay flat. Property taxes in Toronto rose 6.9% in 2025 alone, using a conservative 3% annual increase. By year 10, property tax has climbed to $7,509 per year. By year 25, it reaches $11,699. Maintenance costs grow with the home. By year 10, $14,679 per year. By year 25, $22,869 per year. The mortgage payment stays fixed at $3,551. Everything else goes up every single year. Here is what the Jones spend over 25 years. Mortgage payments, $1,065,191. Property tax, $209,823. Maintenance and repairs, $410,167. Down payment, $75,000. Total spent to own this home, $1,760,181. In return, assuming 3% annual appreciation, a conservative long-term estimate for the GTA suburbs, their home is worth approximately $1,570,000 after 25 years. Mortgage fully paid off. Their net cost of housing after accounting for the asset, roughly $190,000 over 25 years. About $630 a month in real net housing costs. And critically, that $1,570,000 is completely tax-free under Canada's principal residence exemption. The Jones pay zero capital gains tax on every dollar of that appreciation. That is one of the most powerful tax advantages available to Canadian homeowners, and it matters enormously when we compare outcomes later. The Martinez look at the same house and decide not to buy. They rent instead for $3,757 a month. Rent increases 2% annually, conservative, accounting for rent control on older buildings and the GTA rental market softening we saw in 2025 and 2026. By year 10, monthly rent has risen to $4,490. By year 25, it reaches $6,043 a month. Total rent paid by the Martinez over 25 years, $1,444,054. Compared to the Jones, total outlay of $1,760,181. The Martinez spent $316,000 less on housing. They also never tied up $75,000 in a down payment. That is real money. $391,000 that the Martinez had available that the Jones did not. And the Martinez spent every cent of it, a slightly nicer car, more dining out, better vacations, subscriptions, convenience, small upgrades that felt completely reasonable in the moment and completely invisible over 25 years. After 25 years, the Martinez have paid $1.44 million in housing costs and have almost nothing accumulated. No home equity, no invested assets, no financial cushion of any kind. Ben Felix at PWL Capital, one of Canada's most respected evidence-based financial advisors, has modeled the rent versus buy decision extensively using Canadian data. His conclusion is consistent. Renting is not the problem. What you do with the difference is everything. The Martinez are the cautionary tale. Not because they rented, because they rented and spent. The Smiths make the same housing decision as the Martinez. They rent the same 3-bedroom house for $3,757 a month. But the Smiths do two things the Martinez never did. First, they invest the $75,000 down payment they never spent. Instead of locking $75,000 into a down payment, the Smiths put it directly into a diversified index fund portfolio, TFSA first, then RRSP, at 9.5% annual return. The S&P 500's long-term historical average, that single $75,000 investment grows to $798,821 over 25 years. That number alone should stop you in your tracks. The down payment the Jones locked into bricks, the Smiths turned into $800,000. Second, they invest the monthly difference between what owning costs and what renting costs. In year one, ownership costs $4,969 per month. Rent costs $3,757. The difference is $1,212. That goes automatically into their investment account the same day rent is paid. As rent increases 2% per year, the gap gradually narrows. By year 10, the monthly difference has shrunk to $910. By year 25, it is $389. The investment amount decreases as rents catch up, but the compounding on the earlier years never stops. Total contributed from the monthly difference over 25 years, $241,274. That $241,274 at 9.5% annual return grows to $1,169,350. The Smiths' total wealth after 25 years. Monthly difference invested, $1,169,350. Down payment invested, $798,821. Total pre-tax wealth, $1,968,171. But here's where it gets more complex and more honest. The Smiths' wealth is not all the same. The portion in their TFSA is completely tax-free on withdrawal, just like the Joneses' home equity. The portion in their RRSP will be taxed as income when they withdraw it in retirement. Assuming the Smiths split their investments equally between TFSA and RRSP and face a marginal tax rate of 33% on the RRSP portion, their after-tax wealth is approximately $1,643,423. The Jones home equity of $1,570,000 is entirely tax-free. After-tax comparison at 3% home appreciation. The Jones, $1,570,000 tax-free. The Smiths, $1,643,423 after tax. The Smiths come out ahead by roughly $73,000. But here is the twist that changes everything. The sensitivity analysis when buying wins. Everything we have shown so far assumes the Jones home appreciates at 3% per year. That is the conservative estimate. What if the GTA market performs at 5% annually, closer to its long-run historical average? At 5% annual appreciation, the Jones home is worth $2,539,766 after 25 years, still completely tax-free. At 5% appreciation, the Jones are ahead of the Smiths by $896,344. That is not a small difference. That is the power of leverage and tax-free appreciation in a strong real estate market. So who actually wins? The honest answer? It depends on the market. Martinez, at any appreciation rate, finish with almost nothing. This is exactly what Ben Felix has argued for years. Neither buying nor renting is automatically superior. The outcome depends on three variables: the rate of home appreciation, what the renter does with the difference, and the tax treatment of each asset. What is not debatable is the Martinez outcome. This comparison is not theoretical. The 2023 Statistic Canada survey of financial security confirms the same pattern from the real-world data. Young Canadian families who own a home have a median net worth of $457,100. Young Canadian families who rent have a median net worth of just $44,000. That $413,000 gap is not proof that buying is better. It is proof that most renters are the Martinez, not the Smiths. They are renting and spending, not renting and investing. The median renting family in Canada looks nothing like the Smiths. They look exactly like the Martinez. The question is not, should you buy or rent? The question is, if you rent, are you the Smiths or the Martinez? because the difference between those two answers is $1.64 million.